Hey everybody, what a year. Look at this. React is blowing up. React Native is blowing up. And Expo is blowing up. All of these things are growing like weeds or wildfires or whatever analogy you want to use. RevenueCat also published this report discussing all the different frameworks for making subscription apps. And React Native was the clear winner in basically every category across the board. This is one on just D60 revenue per install, and you can see the sort of yellow highlighted React Native just crushing Native, Flutter, and any other framework. React Native and Expo are just everywhere now. Just like you look at any new app, and there's a really good chance that it's built with React Native or Expo. But part of why this is happening is something that we see all around us. I put up this slide a year ago at this conference, highlighting this woman, Audrey, who works at AI2, and she's a non-programmer who had built an app with AI that she had put into production. And at the time, it felt a little bit gimmicky and unusual, and it was kind of a cool story, but not very common. Fast forward to today, and all of us are doing this. If you're a programmer, you're accelerating your development with AI and you're flexing your skills to do things you couldn't do before. And if you weren't a programmer at all, you're now maybe becoming part of our community. All those graphs that I just showed you shoot up in January. January is the time when we sort of all realized that AI went from being a toy to being a really good software developer. And React Native and Expo are winning this AI era so far. Yeah. So congrats, everyone. We finally got React Native and Expo to be the best way to make new apps. That's a pretty big deal. For a lot of years, people just said a cross-platform framework can never be good enough. People talked about HTML5 as just not being good enough, and they were kind of right. A long list of other frameworks tried to get here, and they couldn't do it. And all of you were part of the big effort to make this happen and make us win. And all of us made a big bet on this community and this approach that we could get there, and that bet is paying off now. What's really put the wind in the sails of this is that React Native and Expo are really the best way to build apps with AI for a bunch of different reasons. And almost every app that is an AI app builder that generates apps or generates mobile apps uses Expo to do it. And if you ask most AIs like Claude or Codex or Gemini like how to build a mobile app, it'll direct you to Expo most of the time. There's a bunch of reasons for that. The biggest one is just that we bet on JS and TypeScript and React. And that turns out to be a great bet when there's a gigantic amount of training data that's prepped all these AIs to use our stack. Another big reason that this is happening is because there's great documentation across this community. In the Expo repo, the number one source of commits was docs. There were over 1,160 commits just to the docs in the last year alone. So that is really helping make AIs understand how to write Expo apps. And then universality has really come into play in the AI era. If you just go into a website that has a little prompt box like you see all over the place and you say, I want an app that plays the stream from my radio station that I have, it doesn't have to know what kind of phone you have. It doesn't have to know what kind of computer you have. It can just know, hey, if I make an Expo app, it'll work everywhere, and it'll work really, really quickly. So that's driving AIs to do everything. We also have an incredible ecosystem here, and all of you are part of it. From MMKV and Vision Camera from Margillo, from React Native Paper, CallStack, and Native Wind, and WebGPU, and Skia, and FlashList, all the way to React Native, Reanimated, and React Native Screens and Friends, and everything from Software Mansion. There's a huge effort across everyone in this room and also beyond that's making this a really vibrant ecosystem that takes care of all the problems that you run into. Every time you want to do something hard with React Native, there's probably someone else who has already done it, and you can benefit from their work and stand on their shoulders. And that's a big part of why we're getting further and further, because we're the sort of healthiest open source community in app development. The community is also just a big part of posting on Reddit about the experiences you have and sharing stories of success, which is leading people and also AIs to realize this and sort of spread the word. We can see everything's growing really quickly. You can see our stars on the Expo repository just keep growing faster and faster, and we'll cross 50,000 stars in a few days. And then it's on to 100,000 from there, I think. Two of the biggest, best flagship apps in the AI era are built with Expo. The Replit app is built with Expo, and even will let you build Expo apps with it, so it's sort of meta. And that's consistently in the top of the developers' tool charts in the App Store, and is doing really, really well. V0 from Vercel is built by Fernando Rojo and friends with a great amount of care, and is one of the best apps out there, all built with Expo. So we're really winning the race to be the technology of choice for the new AI era. But the job's not really done. In some sense, we're not really quite there yet. Sort of the final boss of this journey is, I think, if you need to build an app that's critically important to your business, and you have unlimited resources and access to the best talent in the world, what technology do you choose? And we kind of went 0 for 3 on these frontier labs building their flagship AI apps. The ChatGPT app and the Gemini app and the Claude app are all built with Swift and Kotlin and these sort of traditional native technologies. So there's still a gap there. For websites, React has already won. Everybody making the best websites in the world is already using React. But we still have a little gap to close on the React Native side, and there's a few things we have left to do. So we're not 100% of the way done with this journey. And then at the same time as we have to finish that journey, the game's also changing underneath our feet. I've been talking about AI for the last 7 minutes, and I just talked about all these reasons why React Native and React and Expo are doing great and off to a great start in this AI era. But things are changing so much that there's no guarantee that we're going to keep winning this game if we don't do everything that we need to prepare for this new world. So there's a few more things we need to do as a community, and we need to do as an Expo team to make this happen. The most important thing, I think, here is completing feedback loops. When an AI agent can figure out what it's doing and evaluate whether it's complete or not, or whether it's done is working or not, then it can almost always figure things out. So Argent from Software Mansion and their related simulator work and Agent Device from CallStack, and these things that let agents programmatically inspect their work, understand what's going on, get screenshots, poke and probe at it, push buttons and see what happens, test apps and things like that. Those are really, really, really important and the foundation of making these things work. So we need to make this as good as it possibly can be. The sort of gold standard in the world right now for this is the web ecosystem. There's so many people building tooling there, and it's so open, and the tooling is so mature that that's a big reason why almost anybody doing stuff with AI, their first look is towards web. And that's another reason why continuing to make web support first class in the React Native ecosystem is more important than ever. I actually know a founder who's building an Expo app, but the way he does it is he uses Cursor Cloud Agent and just generates a website for development, and then maybe once every 2 or 3 days generates an iPhone app from that. But the website is good enough to test most things, and the iteration cycle is so fast that that's actually an incredible way to do it. So we really need to, there's more need than ever to make web support be a first-class citizen in this ecosystem. We all know that speed is important, but now that the time it takes to write code is going down and it's mostly being handled by AI for most people, the other parts of the process, builds, distribution, boot times, et cetera, become the bottlenecks in the process. Every second and millisecond we can shave off here really matters. So a lot of the effort the Expo team is going to put into the Expo project over the next year is about making build times be as fast as possible and every other part of everything that goes on and making an app be as fast as possible, so you're only limited by how fast you can write code. We also need to blow the lid off the ceiling. I think this is probably the #1 reason why the Google and Anthropic and OpenAI didn't choose React Native for their flagship, chat apps. I think it comes down to, they didn't think that they could do keyboard handling well enough. They didn't think they could do chat UIs well enough and things like that. So there's just a few gaps we need to close there to make it amazing. And things like Expo Router are really, really important for not just making it possible to do amazing things, but make it, be a pit of success that's easy to fall into. So that when you just do something by default, you go, wow, how did I get so good at making beautiful apps that feel really great? I must be really talented. But really, it's you plus using the great stack underneath you. And then another piece of the puzzle is that we need to add first-class support for agentic interfaces. As the world changes under our feet, AI is not only writing our software, but it's also starting to use it for us. And so what we need to do going forward is an Expo app we're going to not treat just iOS and Android and web as our 3 first-class surfaces. We're going to add agentic interfaces into it as one of our primary ways to explore stuff. The world is still figuring out exactly what that means, but it's going to be important. I talked about how we're going to do everything around the writing of code to make that easier. And I want to share a few things that we're working on the Expo team over the last few months to help all that happen. Expo TV is making Expo even more universal. It lets you share about 85% of your code while targeting Apple TV and Android TV. And as of Expo SDK 56, the Jetpack Compose and Swift UI APIs in Expo UI are stable and shipped with the default template. With Expo UI, you're driving real Swift UI and Jetpack Compose widgets from a single JS API. And you don't need to bridge and implement all those yourself. You don't need to write a native module just to include one little widget from the operating system primitives. Expo Launch is an incredibly easy and fast way to get your app deployed to Test Flight, the App Store, and the web. No complicated configuration files, just a straightforward web-based flow, and the magic happens. The official Expo MCP server connects your agent to your project's SDK version, configuration, running dev server, and Expo's cloud services. Originally, it was only available to people on paid plans, but we've now made it free and open to anyone with an Expo account. One of my favorite things about this is the local simulator integration. A multimodal agent can screenshot and tap through your running app and pull React Native DevTools data and investigate maybe why a build failed or a workflow failed, and pull in test flight and crash data. The Expo Skills repo is a collection of official skills for building, deploying, and debugging Expo apps. It covers UI building, deployment, SDK upgrades, DOM components, and dev clients. It can do cool stuff like deep integration with Expo Router and Liquid Glass, so you can have your AI agents one-shot, really polished UIs that look and feel completely native. I also want to talk about Expo Observe. It's a new performance observability tool and service. It captures all the common sense basics you need to make sure your app is working well in the wild. Real user startup metrics, cold and warm launch, time to first render, time to interactive, and bundle load times. It'll be available for everyone soon, but you can sign up for the private preview right now on the website and come to Caddy's talk tomorrow where you can learn more about this. Expo Widgets gives you an incredibly easy way to integrate with widgets and live activities on iOS, which is something you historically would have needed to drop into the weeds of native code to do. And Expo Router v7 doubles down on giving you the most native experiences possible, adding native toolbars, link transitions, and more native navigation primitives than ever before. SDK 56 is also here. Speed improvements across the board, from precompiled binaries, meaning faster builds, to improving Android's cold start times by 40%. Hermes v1 is also now the default, plus a ton of other goodies. We built a beautiful new starter app. It's actually shocking how big of a difference this makes. Every time I start a new Expo app now, I just feel like I'm a really good developer because the first screen I see just looks so slick and so nice, and I know I'm off to a great start building something that's going to feel awesome. So even though the world is changing under our feet and software development is changing rapidly, our mission is still pretty much the same thing at Expo. When you have a vision for an app in your head, we want to make it come to life as quickly, as easily, and as great and high quality as possible. So we're going to keep working on this stuff, and it's going to happen. Thank you so much for coming out to Krakow and being a part of this community. Thank you so much to our hosts at Software Mansion and all the conference sponsors. And I can't wait to see what all of you build next.